Romeo Chicco had a spotless driving record. In December 2023, his longtime auto insurer pulled out of Florida, so he sat down at his kitchen table in Palm Beach County and started dialing. He called 7 insurance companies in a single afternoon. Every one of them said no. It took a Liberty Mutual agent to finally tell him why. Chicco had been blacklisted because of something called a LexisNexis Driver Behavior Report. He'd never heard of it. He'd never signed up for a tracking program. He had never plugged a monitoring dongle into his dash. He had never opted into a usage-based insurance app. Nothing. But when he invoked his rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act and requested the file, what arrived in January 2024 was a document that detailed 258 separate driving events from his 2021 Cadillac XT6. Every hard brake, every quick acceleration, every burst over 80 miles an hour, all logged, all time-stamped to the second. All sold. The salesperson at the GM dealership in Delray Beach, where Chicco bought the SUV in November 2021, had told him OnStar was just a free trial. His $60,000 luxury SUV had been quietly snitching on him for 6 months, and his premium was about to nearly double. Today, we're going to unpack the invisible pipeline that turned millions of American cars into surveillance devices for the insurance industry, and we're going to find out exactly how much your automaker got paid to sell you out. Spoiler, it was pennies. The trapdoor opens in 2015. General Motors launches a program called OnStar Smart Driver. On paper, it's a gamified coaching tool. You earn digital badges. You see your fuel efficiency improve. It's marketed as a way to recognize driving improvement opportunities and become a better driver. Drive smoother, save gas, feel proud. What GM didn't advertise is what happened to that data once it left your car. Because around 2020, GM quietly expanded the program into a full monetization machine and signed contracts with 2 enormous companies you've probably never heard of. The first is LexisNexis Risk Solutions, not the legal research one. This is a separate division, a subsidiary of the British conglomerate RELX, that runs something called the telematics exchange. The second is Verisk Analytics, which runs the Verisk Data Exchange. These are data brokers, clearinghouses, the back office where driver behavior gets bought, scored, and resold. And GM wasn't alone. LexisNexis had already signed Mitsubishi in March 2018, Nissan in February 2019, Ford in August 2021, Subaru in February 2023, and Kia in October 2023. Verisk had Honda and Acura live by August 6, 2020, and Ford by October 13th of the same year. On November 18, 2020, GM formally launched OnStar Insurance Services. Its own press release bragged that telematics data would, quote, transform the auto insurance industry and deliver personalized rates. Here's how the pipeline actually works. Inside your modern car, there's a network called the CAN bus. The CAN bus, that's the internal wiring system that lets your engine, your brakes, your seatbelt sensor, and your speedometer all talk to each other without a host computer running the show. The telematics module, that's the cellular modem hidden in your dash, branded as OnStar or Hyundai's BlueLink or Kia Connect, listens to that bus. It samples your speed, your braking pressure, your G-force, your odometer, even whether your seatbelt is buckled. According to the FTC's own findings against General Motors, that sampling happens sometimes as often as every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds, for years. Those readings get bundled into packets and uploaded over a cellular connection to the automaker's cloud servers. Your car has its own cell plan. You're paying for the data plan that's surveilling you. The Iowa Attorney General's February 26, 2026 filing laid out exactly what was being scraped: ignition status, seatbelt status, speed exceeding 80 miles per hour, hard braking, rapid acceleration, the whole behavioral fingerprint of every drive you take. From there, the automaker sells the raw data to the brokers, LexisNexis, Verisk, and in GM's case, 2 other companies whose names GM refused to disclose to congressional investigators. We still don't know who they are. The brokers normalize that data, run it through proprietary machine learning algorithms, and spit out a standardized driver risk score. The exact mathematical weighting is a trade secret. We don't know how much a single late-night trip degrades a score compared to 3 hard breaks. When you apply for a new policy, the insurance company queries that database through a point-of-sale API. The score lands on the underwriter's screen in seconds, and your premium gets set. Here's the thing, none of those events have context. A hard brake to avoid a kid running into the street looks identical to reckless driving in the broker's report. The algorithm doesn't know the difference. The underwriter doesn't either. The complaint Chicco filed in the Southern District of Florida on March 13, 2024, case number 9:24-CV-80281-DMM, put it bluntly, Quote, plaintiff did not want OnStar services, and so he did not push the blue button to get started. Notably absent from the consumer report is any context related to these driving events. The complaint alleged violations of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and Florida's Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act, citing, quote, significant emotional distress and financial damage. Now meet Kenn Dahl, 65 years old, software company owner near Seattle. In 2022, his auto insurance premium jumped 21%. He had no tickets, no accidents. He drove a leased Chevrolet Bolt. He requested his LexisNexis file and received a 258-page document. It contains 640 individual trips, times, distances, hard brakes, rapid accelerations, down to the second. A diary of his daily life he never agreed to keep. On March 11, 2024, New York Times reporter Kashmir Hill published Dahl's story under the headline, Automakers are sharing consumers' driving behavior with insurance companies. The investigation exposed the entire pipeline. Dahl told the Times, it felt like a betrayal. They're taking information that I didn't realize was going to be shared and screwing with our insurance. How did automakers get away with this? 2 words, dark patterns. They never asked, can we sell your braking data to insurers to raise your rates? Instead, when you bought the car, the dealer walked you through activating OnStar, pitched as a safety feature. Automatic crash response, stolen vehicle recovery, roadside assistance. By accepting those terms, you also opted into the Smart Driver program. 1 checkbox, bundled consent. The data sharing clause was buried in roughly 50 pages of legal disclosure no buyer ever reads. And it gets worse. GM's internal dealer manuals, reported by Business Insider in March 2024, show that sales staff received bonuses for enrolling new buyers into OnStar Smart Driver during delivery. So the person handing you your keys had a financial incentive to quietly check the box, while you were excited about your new car, without ever explaining what it meant. There was also a legal loophole holding the whole structure up. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, codified at 15 U.S.C. Section 1681, LexisNexis and Verisk are classified as consumer reporting agencies. They have to give you your file when you ask. The automakers argued they were merely furnishers of data, shielded from those strict disclosure rules. And because the United States has no comprehensive federal privacy statute, the automakers treated your car's telemetry as their corporate property, not your personal information. A regulatory gray area exploited at scale. On July 26, 2024, Senators Ron Wyden of Oregon and Edward Markey of Massachusetts sent a formal letter to FTC Chair Lina Khan. Their congressional investigation had broken open the books. Honda transmitted the driving data of 97,000 vehicles to Verisk. The total payment? $25,920. That works out to 26 cents per car. Hyundai transmitted the data of 1.7 million vehicles. Verisk paid them $1,043,315.69, 61 cents per car. Wyden's letter put it plainly, quote, it is particularly insulting for automakers that are selling cars for tens of thousands of dollars to then squeeze out a few additional pennies of profit with consumers' private data. And our investigation proved that automakers are willing to violate their customers' privacy and sell their location history and other driving data for mere pennies. GM refused to tell Congress what it earned. We only found out later when the California Attorney General sued. The number was approximately $20 million nationwide between 2020 and 2024. GM had shared location and driving data from over 8 million vehicles. Some estimates put it as high as 14 million, and the scale of the data broker side is staggering. By June 28, 2022, the 5th anniversary of its telematics exchange, LexisNexis was boasting that it held data from over 10 million vehicles, 252 billion driving miles. That's the equivalent of 19.5 million years of vehicle logging. Sold to 5 of the top 10 U.S. auto insurers, representing 42% of the entire American auto insurance market. The ratio is the obscene part. The automaker pocketed 26 cents per car. The driver paid back thousands per year in premium hikes. Chicco's policy was set to roughly double. Dahl's jumped 21%. The corporate gain to consumer damage was lopsided beyond comprehension. Then the dominoes fell. 2 days after the Times article published, Chicco filed his class action. 9 days after that, on March 20th, 2024, GM spokesperson Kevin Kelly announced the company had terminated its relationships with LexisNexis and Verisk. By April, Verisk CEO Lee Shavel told an industry conference that the company was shutting down its entire driver rating product. Why? Because, quote, the entities that were providing that data to us decided to stop. On April 24, 2024, GM discontinued OnStar Smart Driver entirely, citing customer feedback. On June 7, 2024, the Federal Judicial Panel consolidated over 25 class actions into a single multi-district litigation, MDL number 3115, titled In Re, Consumer Vehicle Driving Data Tracking Litigation, under Judge Thomas Thrash Jr. in the Northern District of Georgia. On August 14, 2024, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued GM in Montgomery County District Court for illegally collecting and selling the driving data of over 1.5 million Texans. In January 2026, the Federal Trade Commission finalized its order against GM and OnStar, a 5-year ban on GM disclosing geolocation and driver behavior data to consumer reporting agencies, and a 20-year requirement that GM obtain affirmative express consent before collecting or sharing connected vehicle data going forward. The FTC's order stated, quote, GM monitored and sold people's precise geolocation data and driver behavior information, sometimes as often as every 3 seconds. GM used a misleading enrollment process to get consumers to sign up for its OnStar Connected Vehicle Service and OnStar Smart Driver feature. Then on April 22, 2026, Judge Thrash issued a 200-plus page order in MDL 3115. He denied the defendant's motions to dismiss. Core claims under the Federal Wiretap Act, the Stored Communications Act, and the Fair Credit Reporting Act were all greenlit to proceed to trial. A federal judge had ruled that selling your braking data could plausibly be wiretapping. And on May 8, 2026, California Attorney General Rob Bonta, alongside district attorneys from San Francisco, Los Angeles, Napa, and Sonoma, announced a record-breaking $12.75 million settlement with GM. Bonta said it cleanly. If you know the precise location of a person's car, then you know an enormous amount of personal, sensitive information about that person, their home, work, children's school, place of worship. It was the first major enforcement of the California Consumer Privacy Act's data minimization principle, the first time a regulator drew a clear line. A company cannot collect data for one stated purpose, like emergency roadside assistance, and silently monetize it for another, like insurance underwriting. Harvard professor Shoshana Zuboff calls this dynamic surveillance capitalism, the unilateral commodification of offline human behavior. For decades, the American car was the symbol of personal freedom, a private capsule on the open road, yours. Now we know that capsule was a microphone. McKinsey estimates that by 2030, 95% of new vehicles sold globally will be fully connected, up from around 50% today. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. The same playbook is being eyed everywhere now. Your smart thermostat knows when you're home. Your fitness tracker logs your heart rate. Your smart water meter clocks every shower. Your doorbell camera knows your sleep schedule. Every one of those data streams is valuable to a homeowner's insurer, a health insurer, a life insurer looking to dynamically price risk. And the architecture GM built, bundle consent into a safety feature, sell raw telemetry to a broker, let an algorithm decide what it means, is portable to all of them. The trial unfolding in Judge Thrash's courtroom will help decide whether the physical spaces of our lives stay ours, or whether they become continuous corporate surveillance streams, sold for 26 cents, billed back to you for thousands. Romeo Chicco's car still has that blue OnStar button. He's just stopped pressing it.